everyone. We are so happy to have you here. Welcome. We're pumped to chat with you today. My name is Monique Parker, and I am one of the hosts of the Shortchanged Podcast alongside my fantastic co-host, Taylor Johnson.
Thanks, Monique. Hi, everyone. I am Taylor Johnson. We are so excited you're here with us, and we're really excited just to jump in.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect. And we're going, what is shortchanged?
So we've got a lot to cover today. On the pod, we have learned many things, including the ways of alignment, which is probably why you have shown up today. But before we really dive into the learnings and some tactics, we wanted to first cover who we are. So the Shortchanged Podcast was created to really get the conversation going, conversations around questioning the status quo in philanthropy. And we also wanted to showcase leaders who are resilient and innovative in the meantime.
Yes. And our mission with the Shortchanged Podcast is simple but powerful. We really wanted to understand why organizations and leaders within our sector are falling short. We also wanted to start the conversation around what's not working and really aim to highlight the solutions that are creating a more equitable impact in philanthropy and nonprofit. We also wanted to advocate for more equitable philanthropy across the board. So Shortchanged was our vehicle to do that. Who are we? I love our story. Independently, though, I am both a dreamer and a doer. I have spent my career in corporate working in DEI, so equity has always been a focus for me. A few years ago, I became the founder of Little Bit of Good. We are an organization working to eliminate inequity in the philanthropic sector and close the opportunity gap for Black-led organizations. I am passionate about serving my community and love this adventure of doing Shortchanged with Taylor.
Yeah, and I am Taylor Johnson. I have had the pleasure of spending my entire career in philanthropy and in social impact. And I'm currently working at Purpose Possible. I work as a fundraising consultant, and we work with mission-driven organizations to create and implement really meaningful fundraising strategies. And Monique and I first crossed paths while we were in the community of We Are For Good. So a quick little shout out to our podcast network, the We Are For Good podcast network. So that's actually where we found each other and where Shortchanged was born.
Yes, we were both members of the We Are For Good community. Taylor, being the wonderful nonprofit advocate that she is, had reached out to me on the platform and randomly ended up on a trip with her brother to Austin, where I reside. We finally met in person at that point, and we just spark. We can talk all day long. We're both very passionate about equity and philanthropy and service in this sector. And Taylor had a pretty incredible idea of both of us ordering some mics off of Amazon and recording ourselves, but really with the intention to have a more equitable landscape for the organizations that we work with and serve. And so happy that she had this idea.
Yeah, and that really brings us to the question, though, why a podcast? I think, Monique and I very easily could have just hung out more, and that could have solved our problems of, creating more conversation and spending more time together. But we started this podcast, and Adi, if you can go to the next slide, because as we were really trying to see what our place is in the broader philanthropic world, we think we might actually have this really important role of just spreading good gossip on the mic. So though often seen in a negative light, gossip has emerged all throughout history as this powerful tool to energize and propel movements forward. And according to a recent studies done by the smarties at University of Maryland and Stanford, it turns out that gossip, their conclusion isn't all that bad. Because it's just been a significant part of human life for forever. Because of those evolutionary advantages, gossip transcends gender, age, culture, socioeconomic background. So as we talk a little bit more about good gossip, we are making this assumption of good gossip that it's honest and it's for the greater good. We are wanting to move things forward and uplift others. And so that brings me into this. Good gossip. What is that? And that's really beyond spilling the tea, if you will. Gossip is this strategic exchange of social resources. We swap information, we build trust. By ways of gossip, we can try to create community norms and standards and new safeguards. Gossip also leads to this accessibility to reputations, to maybe people in networks beyond our own. It allows us to quickly learn from others who out there is safe, who might foster a collaborative environment, and who is aligned with the work that we do and our values. Good gossip can act as this guide that helps us steer clear of some of those people or situations that could be unhelpful at best or harmful at worst. It can assist us in making really informed decisions and point us towards alignment when we're evaluating potential partners and collaborators.
Absolutely. And I think where, this theme of good gossip really aligns with what we're trying to do, in comes that keyword of alignment again. Good gossip really has the power to hold those in leadership positions accountable for their actions and the systems that they are implementing. It really helps to dismantle hierarchy because nothing is done in secret. And it really forces people to participate in community because of the collective expectations. When I talk to you and you talk to me, we now share that knowledge, and together we could go further. So I love this kind of vehicle that this good gossip starts to create. And we took that into seasons 1 and 2 of the Shortchanged Podcast. Season 1 was specifically around racial inequity in funding and philanthropy. And in season 2, we drove a little bit deeper into overhead and the lack of overhead investment, what that means and looks like for nonprofits.
Monique, is there any exciting things you want to share from season 1 before I share a little bit of season 2?
Oh my gosh. Season 1 was our inaugural season. It was too exciting to just jump out there and really open up the conversation about inequity during season 1. We talked to a lot of different experts across the sector, working in nonprofit, working in funding, community advocates. And I think the biggest thing that I saw coming out of season 1 was the theme of collaboration and what we're able to achieve when we're working together. I think that was the biggest kind of learning and takeaway, all the different ways that we could see organizations really being able to scale based off of collaboration.
I love that. And I also want to spend some time talking about overhead too, and really how that has anything to do with equity, the lack of investment in overhead. And we brought a lot of really exciting and really smart guests on the mic with us for season 1 and 2. The lack of investment in overhead can create this expectation of servitude rather than service for nonprofit staff and leaders. It can spread a staff so thin and lead to burnout. It can impede tech advancements and other infrastructure advancements and innovations that really increase the efficiency and overall impact of organizations. But it also can make the lack of investment in overhead can actually also make workplaces inequitable. And truly, at the end of the day, we have a mindset shift that needs to happen in the nonprofit world because our work is devalued in a capitalist society. Both seasons highlight really major systemic issues that nonprofit leaders face every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think through these conversations, one of the major themes that we came out with and what we want to dive a bit deeper into with you all today is the theme of alignment. Throughout both seasons, we really noticed this theme kind of coming up again and again in different places. And our guests taught us all sorts of lessons on alignment in work, in your relationships, in your funding efforts. And really, when we're aligned in all our values, our mission, our visions with our people and supporters, how we're able to be most effective and impactful in our work. Next slide, please. In our episode with the Healthy Grant Pro, we had a panel of experts sitting with us talking all about burnout, internal systems, things like that. And we explored how being aligned with your mission every day can really help to prevent burnout, and really how it's about being connected to the task at hand and knowing which parts of your work really matter most, helping to empower your staff in their work, so that we're avoiding overworking. Having real clarity is also one of those themes as well. Um, what about alignment with vision?
Yeah, pass it back to me. Yeah, alignment matters when it comes to our vision. Really aligning with our funders and our partners to have investment in preventative solutions that leads to community-led decision making. And if we have communities leading the decision making about programs, go figure, we actually have long-lasting change because the real needs are actually met. So we spoke with Yada Peng from Just Fund, and this is where some of this had come up from our conversation with her. She shared the importance of that vision-aligned funding through prevention and long-term solutions, because when we're investing preventatively and we transfer power to communities, like I said, real needs are met. And then one of our guests was Derek Butler from Project 110. And they actually had this unique experience where all of their funding was unrestricted, which is powerful and where we hope we can go in the philanthropic sector. But because they had only received unrestricted funding, he was this walking, talking example of when funders cede the power to communities for decision making, results are more strategic and we actually see tangible, impactful outcomes. And it's most strategic because it's led by the community. And so this is just kind of the little, we wanted to kind of create this like stepping stone of our vision being aligned with our community members, our donors, our funders, really getting everybody aligned with us as we move forward. And really that center is the community. We want this community-centric approach to all of our work. And if we are really like pounding that drum a little bit, we're going to get funders and people who want to walk alongside us and invest in these preventative solutions, having the community lead the way. And then long down the road, we have long-lasting change that we can experience and touch and feel.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, in having these conversations and specific to this vision alignment and being able to take these examples, Yada and Just Fun and that platform and how they're able to impact, or use Derek in 110's example in how that investment really enabled them to scale. It's been incredible to now have data and all of these different scenarios to back up why this vision alignment really matters. I think that also brings us next to alignment when it comes to values and collaboration. So we sat down with Lisa Sullivan, who led us in a conversation calling for power together rather than power over, which I think was such a strong statement, and one that I've held with me since that conversation. And this was really a call to funders to become more partners and cheerleaders rather than leaders of their grantees and partners. She also really emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with peers and community members that help us propel forward, because we are stronger together. I think that one big thing that I got out of that conversation too is really how she's able to leverage that values alignment in her partnerships, or in the way that we approach partnerships. If we're values aligned, then it makes it easier to share the big picture or to ask for the big thing, because when we do have that similar understanding, it makes more sense. So I know we talk a lot about finding mission alignment, which is fantastic. But I think just kind of ending on this true values alignment, looking at that as our kind of foundation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you, Monique. And that's unrestricted funding here again. I'll beat the drum again. And I think where this is relevant to value alignment is when funders when they're open to general operating support, unrestricted funding, they're showing you that they really believe in the work that you do and they trust your organization to get it done. Otissa Eads led us in a conversation too about partnership being more than money. But it's because it is really creating this deeper impact through this really strong partnership. And so what we're building here is some of these funders stepping back a little bit and letting the community run the programs and meet the needs that are arising. And this really brings me to Pam Benson Owens and Terry P. Mitchell from the Black Fund. They reminded us all money isn't good money. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where this brings us back to our value alignment, is when we're really strong about who we are and what we're trying to do in our community, in our corner of the work, we can say some confident no's if we need to. And I understand that that is a very hard thing for a nonprofit to do. But trying to create partnerships with people who not only believe in the vision where you're headed, but they believe in you as an organization and connect with you, and, to use the word again, align with your values.
It's the star word of our presentation.
Yeah. So that actually brings me into, okay, I know we talked about mission, vision, values, these alignments. Like, okay, yes, that sounds great. Would love to be able to do that. But what does that look like? So we want to talk about a little bit of just tactical pieces that we've seen either in our work or people that have been surrounded by us, things that they're doing to align their mission, vision, and values with partners. So I think mission alignment, I love rhythms. I love routines. I love to ground myself in my day-to-day work, have this larger vision that's pulling me forward, but kind of just know that each day, whatever I set in front of me, once it's done, I know I can put my feet up and rest. And so I do just love to I love to emphasize that with that's beyond nonprofit work, just anybody I'm working with, professional or things personally you're managing, but finding your rhythm in your work, those stepping stones toward that big vision for the year and beyond, really just allow us to kind of just stay put. And yes, because we all are wearing so many hats, we have so many things we need to get done, but the rhythms that kind of have, like, if we have that stepping stone today, we just got to get to that next stepping stone. And in that next stepping stone, there's a little list of to-dos, but we are taking it one step at a time. And that can really look like creating those larger visions, those larger goals for the whole year. And then when you're fresh and ready at the front of the year, you can take, okay, now what do I need to do each quarter? What do I need to do each month, each week, each day? And so then that's how you can really help yourself out in the future, knowing that past Taylor, when she was fresh and energized and ready to roll, these are the things she said I needed to get done this week. And even though I am tired, I am exhausted, I know I just got to get this in front of me done. So that's just my little soapbox about rhythms. If you have any questions about rhythms, you can email the Shortchanged email. But I also want to emphasize more practically for nonprofits and beyond is checking the work by the mission. Is there something that your organization is doing that maybe you've been doing it for years because you've always been doing it, but is it actually advancing the work forward? And I'll use an example that could probably get some fun little eye rolls from the crowd, a gala. Is it actually essential? Do you actually have an ROI from it? Or is it something that can wait, or something that can totally sunset? For the gala, are you spending a lot of time putting this event together that you aren't really seeing the returns on, or your staff is absolutely slap wore out at the end of it, and you can't really understand at the end where the mission advancement was? And so I think just taking some of the events we're doing, day-to-day tasks, but I'm thinking like around these events, like are there things that we're doing that we are just spinning our wheels for that aren't actually aligned with our mission? And where can we create alignment or sunset these things and focus on things that actually are more mission aligned? And I think too, if you take your events through this mission alignment filter, that'll prep you for those conversations for the donor or the board member who really loves that gala. And because I hear that a lot, that, well, so-and-so is really attached to it. But if they really believe in the mission, let's show them how this doesn't align and or what can we do to make it aligned, or we have this really great idea that we actually feel like will advance the mission forward. So I think that mission alignment not only allows you to take some things off your plate, but also allows you to have really clear conversations with your staff and your community members around you on why decisions are made.
Absolutely. I think we need to follow up and just do a whole other webinar about rhythms and leverage some of these platforms to get better with our rhythms, because you were preaching a word to me. But as far as, a next action item or tactic to use, and when it comes to vision, being bold about the change you want to make. And I know that bold can be a loaded word, because what exactly does that mean? And I think for me, it shows up in a variety of different areas while we are leading our organizations. When it comes to being bold, there has to be clarity. We have to be clear in what we're talking about. So rolling back and being extremely clear about your mission, vision, values. Who do we serve? Why do we serve them? And how? That will then enable you to go out and be bold in your asks. When you're talking to funders or potential donors and collaborators, you already have that clarity on what you're doing. And now we can move forward in saying, I need this because I know that it will service X, Y, and Z. I think having that belief and real knowing in what you're doing really helps us as we move through some interesting times. I think for myself specifically, our organization serves Black-led organizations, nonprofit organizations. We're dealing with a lot of anti-DEI policy and legislation right now. I think one way that we have been bold in answering to that is now coming back into our internal systems, making sure we have processes, procedures, we are being strategic in terms of our operations, so that when we do step outside, we're able to be bold in our mission and service. So I think it's not always in the ask that we show how we're being bold, but what we do on the back end to make sure that we are able to show up in the way that we want to in every room that we're in. But one of the best themes I think that we got out of the last couple seasons.
Yeah, that's good. Then values, alignment, and action. One of the first steps here is to get to know your people. Well, actually, I'll back up. Get to know yourself first. Before we do that, really root in what do you believe in. And I think this is another little tangent that I'll go on to. With values, I feel like value statements in the nonprofit world are sometimes really long. There's a lot of them. And I think one thing, so look at your website. You can look at your website. Is it readable? Do you get the idea when you skim that the value statement section? Do you X out and forget everything because there was too much, or it wasn't relevant to the organization? So I think that's one check you do. Ask your staff and board, do they know your values? And if they don't, there might be some time to get rooted back in that. And I think too, it doesn't need to be absolutely everything. I think you can really find some centering on a few things that you believe in the most. And I think one other filter to use too is for the values that you do decide on and that do center the work that you do, really create that why around, like, okay, I'm doing XYZ because I want to see this really big vision happen. But this value is really like, but why? Why does that matter to us? And when somebody walks into your organization, they should feel your values. So where do you, you can also even kind of see what you're doing in day to day, like what is already showing up. Who are you? How do you show up in this ecosystem of your movement? So once we know ourselves, let's get to know our people. And so I think there's some like kind of some are time intensive and some are scalable, but talking to your donors, talking to your funders, making some phone calls. But I think too, with that, donor surveys. So that is a really easy way to create some two-way communication, to really, offer up a few questions to your donor base. Hey, how'd you learn about us? Why does our mission matter to you? Is there anything else you want to do? Anything interest you? Like, just making it very human. It doesn't need to be this long questionnaire, but just open up the conversation between you and your supporters and invite them into this community and get to know them better. Because that's when you're going to understand if the people that are around you, do they align with the mission, vision, values? But I know there's it takes a lot of time. There are some organizations that don't even really know their donor base. And that is it's just hard. It's hard to do sometimes. But with the donor survey, it's a very easy, like, scalable way to really start that two-way communication. And I also think, so now going back to when we got rooted to our values, really live them out. Be bold in what you stand for, and you're going to find the right champions and collaborators as you move forward. Especially younger donors, they want to see you stand for something. So with all of that, we really hope you can find the right people for you, your funders, so you can fully be you in your corner of the work and really unleash that impact you want to see in your community.
Yeah. And as we come into the absolute fundraising season of the year, end of year giving, I think that alignment more than anything should be, if not already, major focus in your storytelling, in your marketing, and wishing y'all the best of luck this season as well. Next slide, please. Now, I'm so excited. What's next for Shortchanged? We are coming back, season 3 and beyond. Taylor and I have spent a lot of time really discussing, we've done 2 seasons of this pod. I think that we've spoken with a lot of incredible people. We've gotten some wonderful gems to share. But how can we be even more even more impactful and even more effective in the work that we're trying to do? And I think we've landed on focusing on specific issue areas every season. So I am super excited to announce that next year, our next season will focus all around housing. We'll get to do some deep dives into the nonprofit policy, philanthropy, all centered on housing.
Yeah, so exciting. And the purpose of each of our season, so the main one is going to still remain the same. We want to understand what is shortchanging our communities and why. With some of the more complex issues, we really want to bust some myths around it and really humanize the issue. We want to showcase the ecosystem of the movement. These aren't just drops, things aren't happening in a vacuum. We really want to show this collective community effort, one, how we got here and how we can get out of it. And I think that's actually something that's bringing me to one of the things that really grounded Monique in my conversation, like early on, years ago now, where I feel like has been so much hurt created in community, in systems. The only way out of this is together. And so wanting to create that community way out of some of these issues. So we want to highlight mission-driven organizations are doing the work on the ground, some funders who are flowing some unrestricted dollars into communities. We want to talk to some donors and some policy experts. We really want to take an ecosystem view of the issues. And really the kind of why underneath that is, one, to create awareness, but then also some activation. We not only want to have nonprofits equipped. So say you have a nonprofit that is working in this cause area. You can share this season with some of your donors, with some of your audience, to maybe hopefully understand a little bit more of why you do the work that you do in the way that you do the work. So we're hoping it could be a tool for nonprofits from that side, potentially too. Could be a guest on the Shortchanged podcast. And also, though, we really want to make it activating for the everyday philanthropist. We want somebody who's not in the nonprofit world, but just is really interested in their community thriving, but maybe doesn't really understand the specific issue at hand. So our hope is that they become educated, equipped to make the decision best, where they can flow their generosity to, if this is a cause area that really grabs a hold of them, what can they do next? We're really hoping that someone can kind of take this podcast and each season and kind of go, okay, this is the cause area that's really got me. Here are some of the organizations that are doing this really good work. I want to give to XYZ. I want to give to that organization, or I'm going to find one really similar in my community right now. So that is our hope for the next chapter for the podcast.
I truly cannot wait. If any of you all watching have ideas, have referrals, or people that we should definitely talk to working in and around housing, we will share some of our information next. And we'd love for you to join us, join our community. If you haven't already, please go follow, rate, and review the Shortchanged Podcast. Please 5 stars. We are anywhere you listen to podcasts, in 2 seasons, ready and waiting for you to listen. Please also connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram. We have this fun QR code here. It'll take you straight to our social media. And of course, you can email us at shortchangedpod@gmail.com. If you have any questions or want to connect, be a guest, or introduce us to a guest. We really, really appreciate y'all's time today and look forward to getting to know you in the community.
Same.
Bye, y'all.
See ya. Thanks for being here.